Well, if you were listening to my answers to the first two questions in my 5 minutes, you would see the one area that I have not talked about. What is that? No, I've talked about effective teacher. I've talked about all that. So I have not talked about choice. So I think that the issue of choice there's so many unintended consequences around the issues of choice. I would actually like challenge Go Public Schools to look at the consequences to the strong choice policies that we've had. Now I understand in the world of the 90s, which led to many of the educational reforms of the late 90s, early 2000s, the market economy, the go-go competitive nature of choice was really highlighted as the tool for educational reform. But as you can see, I'm kind of a place-based person. So when this question came up when I ran 8 years ago, I said, you actually have two models. One, you could tell parents that there's a few good schools and there's all these other schools, and they should go after the schools that are the better schools because they have a right to do that. My model was, it is the responsibility of the school district and school board to ensure that every school is as good as the best school in this city. So that's been my difference with many of the people talking about choice. So, you know, we have something called the options process, and we had something like, we have an options office. So about 4 years ago, we had an interesting discussion, and I don't know if any of you remember it, but this had to do with the boundaries for Hillcrest. Hillcrest is a K-8 school in the hills, and generally had very good test scores and very good performance, a school that was very appealing to many parents. You may or may not know this, but I was the principal at Hillcrest in 1988 to 1987 to 1989. And so I know the school quite well. And it wasn't a choice school, then it was a neighborhood school, it's K-6. And then after some bumps in the road, I guess I can afford to tell you, about 6 years later, my wife became the principal of that school. And so we both have quite a bit of history around it. So the question around Hillcrest School was, it's overcrowded. And the pressure on the staff and the facility was very great. So the question is, what to do about it? So some people propose that you shrink the boundaries of Hillcrest. By shrinking the boundaries of Hillcrest, you could control the number of students go there, and it'd be a good-sized school. So who do you think didn't think that was such a good idea? The other schools that would have to pick up the students, who then would become overcrowded themselves, and parents who use Hillcrest as a school of choice, and people who are interested in, even the people in the Hillcrest community, who appreciated the fact that the school was more diverse when it had choice. So we wrestled with that for about 1.5 years about what to do with that policy. Finally, the solution, the conclusion that we came to is that we really didn't want a choice policy, an options policy. We actually wanted a school placement policy that focused first on siblings, then on neighborhood, third on choice. I think that's the right direction to go. I think if for whatever reason you get your kid in the school, it's in everybody's best interest to maintain the integrity of the family. So parents should not have to drive from Markham, which is where I went, and Frick, which is where I went, and Hillcrest, which is where I was the principal. They should have some opportunity to stay in a region. That's actually the beginning of this language of regionalization that we have right now. And so once again, my goal is to make sure there's enough space that makes sense, not to overbuild in places that are currently overcrowded, to use some sort of a lottery system, but the main thing is to be able to ensure parents that the education that their kid gets when they start kindergarten is equal to the education that their kid would get if that kid was enrolled at Lincoln, which is, by the way, our national blue ribbon school. Now, interestingly enough, almost no parents in schools opt to Lincoln School as a choice school, and I wonder why that might be. And so maybe that'd be a discussion for some future discussion. But the main thing is focus on building neighborhood schools, give people a sense of security that their kid is going to be going to a clean and safe school with highly effective teachers and good staff in the office and around, and that's my obligation as a school board member.